Hi, I'm Peter Tragos, host of the Lawyer You Know podcast and YouTube channel. The saying goes, everyone hates lawyers until you need one. Well, I'm here when you need one to answer your questions and give you insight that you didn't know you needed. Along with my partners, Pete Sardis, the professor, who has a finance and business background, and George Tragos, my dad, and the consigliere, a criminal defense giant, we can answer any questions you have. What's up, everybody? A Saturday evening live here. I don't think if I have done this, it's been a long time. It is an unusual day and time for a live, but you know by now, on my own this weekend, so I got time to do it. We'll just hang out together. We're going to watch this deposition, react to it, and answer your questions for the first time ever live watching it together. I do really want to get on with Brian and Jax. I really do want to do it. We got to line up schedules, obviously. Yes, 2 lives in one day. What's up, everybody? Hello from all around the world. It's going to be fun. People are going to be joining in here as we get going. If you haven't already, like the video so we can get that out of the way before we start. We will probably catch some of Jax and Brian's discussion here. I'll skip through some of it. I think there's a little less than an hour of actual depo content for this one, so it is a little more manageable potentially. I know they show some documents and something from another depo. I haven't watched it, but I've just heard parts of this one, and people said this one's a peach, that Amber Heard's a peach in this one. So should be interesting. Will be fun. Florida State game was supposed to start at 5. It's thunderstorming there. Hopefully they don't cancel it. It's already been delayed. So we'll be doing this instead. And hopefully the game starts by the time this video ends. That would be great. Hopefully we can beat up on the fighting Duquesnes here for our first game of the year. So part 6 of the 2016 deposition for Amber Heard, that was for their family law case. A lot of the events she's being asked about were much closer in time than the trial. Yes, this is a live. I hear people saying that it's pre-recorded. That's understandable because most of them are pre-recorded. All of the prior depo parts have been pre-recorded, but this one is going live because we have time. We have the way and the ability to do it, so we might as well do it live. Once we hit 500 people here in the chat, we're going to hit it up and start this video up. If you guys have questions, Stacy here says, packing now, watching your second live again today, moving down to Tampa from Buffalo tomorrow. Stacy, that's awesome. Welcome to the Bay, just in time for football season. I had a buddy who moved from Tampa to Buffalo, and he couldn't wait to get back, and he did come back. So this is cool. This is fun. It's unusual. It's always going to be relaxed. It's going to be like we're all hanging out here in the living room watching this video depo together. And we're going to get a lot of questions and answers, which will be fun. All right, we're at 600 people here in the chat now. New sub. What's up, Gecko Geek? All right, let's get to it. Let me fire this up here. I almost just hit end broadcast on accident. It's been a long weekend already. What up, Jackson Brian? Let's do it.
The time is approximately 4:39 p.m. and we're back on the record.
Ms. Heard, you claimed in your declaration that when Johnny arrived, your friend Elizabeth was there, correct? Was present, you said. Okay.
Yes.
Do you remember where you were when Johnny arrived?
On May 21st?
Correct.
Yes, I was in the living room.
Is that the living room of Penthouse 3?
Yes, living room of Penthouse 3.
When Johnny arrived, did he come in the door of Penthouse 3?
Yes.
Okay. And isn't it correct, Ms. Heard, that Elizabeth Mars was in fact not with you in Penthouse 3 at that time?
She was present. She was just not in the room.
Okay. Was she in Penthouse 3 at that time?
I'm not quite sure because all the penthouses connect.
Isn't it true, Ms. Heard, that at the time Johnny's arrival, you could not see Elizabeth Mars at all?
True.
Okay. Isn't it true at the time Johnny arrived, you could not see your friend Raquel Pennington at all?
True.
Isn't it true, Ms. Heard, that at the time Johnny arrived,
So this was because she was acting like the friend was actually there, and she was acting like if you're in the adjoining apartment, that means you're there. It was clear Amber Heard was trying to act like these people were witnesses, and Johnny's lawyer is trying to explain that, but they weren't actually witnesses, regardless of if they were there by your definition or not.
you could not see your Raquel's fiance Josh Drew at all?
True.
Who owns the apartment in which you refer as an adjacent apartment where Raquel and Joshua live?
My ex-husband, Johnny.
He lives in that apartment?
Oh, I thought you asked me who owned it.
Okay.
I thought she
who
did
owns
too.
that apartment?
My ex, Johnny Depp.
Okay. And at the time on May 21, 2016, were Raquel Pennington and Joshua Drew living in the apartment that Johnny owns?
Yes, they were.
Okay. Were they paying any rent?
Not that I know of.
No, they
How
were.
long had they lived there?
I'm not sure.
Had they lived there prior to you living there?
Yes.
How long had they lived there prior to you living there?
I'm not quite sure. I don't remember.
Okay. And to your knowledge, did they ever pay rent during the entire time they've lived in Mr. Depp's apartment?
Calls for speculation.
If you know.
I don't know. That was an arrangement between them.
See, that's good because that is when the coaching goes too far. The lawyer says, if you know, which is an indication and a code word to her to say, I don't know, which is what she said. But she actually does know that they never paid rent, along with some of Johnny's friends that live there too. But this is her trying to maybe make things seem like they're not. And later on, when you have a lot of inconsistent statements, this is just a little thing that you pile on that makes her a little less believable, I think.
Between Johnny, who invited them, and them who accepted.
Okay. When you claim that when Johnny arrived, you were having at first a peaceful conversation about his mother's death, correct?
Yes.
And then you tried to comfort him as you sat on the couch, and that would be in Penthouse 3?
Yes.
And then suddenly he began obsessing about something that was untrue.
Yes.
Isn't it true what he was obsessing about, but what you do not say here is the feces that had been found in his bed after you left on April 22nd?
Can you clarify that question, please?
Yes. When you were referring to him obsessing at that time about something that was untrue, isn't it correct that what he was obsessing about, this thing you were referring to, is that he was informed that feces had been found in his bed after you left on April 22nd?
No.
What was he obsessed?
Quick side note, Me Time, new movie on Netflix with Mark Wahlberg and Kevin Hart. I watched part of it. I haven't watched the whole thing, but his wife has like a friend that's a guy that he says they're like doing chess moves against each other for her. So he actually takes a dump in his bed, and they use a line. His wife says, "A rabbit. Why did a rabbit take a dump in his bed?" He goes, "That wasn't a rabbit. That was me." Very much felt like a wink and a nod to this Amber Heard, Johnny Depp feces story. And I thought that was really funny. And I think they potentially would have had to record this maybe before this. So it's just very weird that this is all kind of out there now more than ever, which I just thought was very interesting in a new movie on Netflix.
Obsessing about that was untrue, as you say in this declaration?
Johnny was obsessing about the fact that he believed, as he put it, my friends, with my knowledge and support, intentionally left that feces in the bed that I sleep in when we fight, and in the apartment where I stay under these circumstances, the bed that would have been cleaned immediately after and long before he would have ever returned. And we had done so on the morning of my 30th birthday as a big joke, like a bunch of 30-year-old women do.
So am I correct that he was obsessing about things related to the feces that had been left in the bed?
What's untrue is, and what I assumed at the time was delusional, was that he thought it was human feces. And because I knew that to be impossible for what I could own, for a number of reasons.
How did you know it was impossible if you didn't know about the feces?
Because he had told me about it on the phone a month prior, and I assumed it was a delusion that was going to pass and go away, like some of these delusions when he's high do. And then when he brought it back up, instead of talking about his mother's death, I worried that it was a little bit more serious and that his mental condition had deteriorated.
I'm not thinking this makes a lot of sense personally as an explanation. I think that's exactly why Johnny's lawyers are getting into it. Mo, they did not live there prior to her living there, according to Johnny's testimony. I don't think that's, I saw you ask if that's what the question was, that they lived there before. I don't think they lived there before. You all can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think they lived there before her and Johnny were together. I think all of their testimony is they all met after Amber Heard and Johnny Depp were already together.
And I knew it was not human because the only people in bed were myself and Raquel. And if Raquel and I were the only humans in that bed in that morning, then I could only deduce that it was what it normally is. Which is our dog Boo. I wasn't done, sorry. That it was our dog Boo. And it seemed so unbelievable, disgusting, outrageous, and incredible that it stuck for the entire month in his head. I became worried.
Isn't it true that when you were, after you say you had comforted Johnny about the death of his mother, and you claim in your declaration that he began obsessing about something that was untrue, you knew exactly he was referring to the feces, correct?
Argumentative.
You knew he was referring to the feces, correct?
Yes, that's exactly what it was.
And isn't it true at that time, Ms. Heard, that the human feces in the bed is the reason Johnny told you at that time that he wanted a divorce from you?
Objection. It misstates the testimony. It assumes facts, not in evidence. You keep calling it human feces.
Isn't it true, Ms. Heard, that at the time you were discussing this feces with Johnny, you had already spoken to Hilda Vargas at his other home?
No.
You did not speak to Hilda Vargas before May 21, 2016 about feces?
No. I spoke to her after I filed for divorce.
Your testimony,
or around that time, and this was before then.
Okay. Is your testimony here today that you spoke with Hilda Vargas in this conversation we discussed about the feces at the Sweetser house after the time you filed for divorce or before?
It was right around that time, like within a day or two.
Would it be fair to say that under any circumstances, it was after May 21 you now claim you spoke with Hilda Vargas?
What do you mean I now claim?
Well, you are claiming here today.
Okay, so I see people talking about how Rocky and Drew moved in prior to Amber and Heard moving in with Johnny because their penthouse wasn't ready. Yes, I thought you meant before he knew Amber, so I may have missed that question. Additionally, we've already heard more bad objections. Argumentative and facts not in evidence. That's not at all a proper objection during a deposition. Those are just speaking objections to basically coach the witness throughout the deposition, which he continues to do. But if she's paying attention, and a smart witness can do a really great job in a deposition. Now, what she should have said is, first off, they're not human feces. And second off, yes, he was talking about the feces in the bed. She can just correct the question with her answer. but a lawyer is not supposed to jump in and basically tell her how to answer. He can say you're mischaracterizing it or it's not human feces or something like that if he wants to. But a witness should just answer that question appropriately and say it's not human feces. And if she does, we would never be able to use that as an aha gotcha moment. A lawyer would never be able to say, oh, see, you said when I asked you the question, Johnny was very upset about the human feces in the bed, and you said he was upset about the feces. You can never use that as impeachment. That, oh, see, you agree that it's human feces after 6 hours we've been listening to her say it was not human feces. It could not have been human feces. It was just me and Rocky in the bed. We didn't take a dump in the bed. It was the dog's feces. Whether you agree with her or not, that's her statement, and you can't impeach her with something where you wordsmithed her to trick her into saying yes to a question. So,
Today, you were claiming here today.
Argumentative. Let's just ask your questions and please don't be argumentative.
Is it
about
your testimony that you spoke to Hilda Vargas about your marriage and the feces after May 21, 2016?
I believe so.
Isn't it true, Ms. Heard, that while you were sitting on the couch discussing the feces with Mr. Depp, that in fact you demanded and got Kevin Murphy on the phone?
Are you asking me if it's true if I demanded?
No. Did you speak to Kevin Murphy in and around your conversation with Johnny Depp on the couch at that time?
In an attempt to assuage his delusion, I thought a sane voice might be able to shine some light on what I thought was a crazy delusion and something that could have been easily rationalized by a sane voice.
Okay. You finished?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Ms. Heard, isn't it the truth that at the time you got Kevin Murphy, you spoke to Kevin Murphy on the phone while you were sitting there with Johnny, you had previously told Kevin Murphy that you did know about the feces and it had been a, quote, harmless prank, end quote?
Absolutely not. That's not true.
Have you ever at any time since April 21 referred to this feces being on your bed as a prank?
Never.
To any other person, Mr. Murphy or any other individual?
Never.
Okay. And Ms. Heard, isn't it true that as you got Kevin Murphy on the phone, you specifically discussed the feces, correct?
As I stated before, I was trying to assuage Johnny's, what I could only imagine was a delusion, because he knows very well that Boo does this a lot. So I thought Kevin would be able to put this delusion to rest and we could move on.
Okay.
Yeah, I was a little smug in that response. A couple things. Number one, she said, as I said before, and she's done that throughout. We talked to a juror after one of our trials about 3 weeks ago. It was a good result. It was not the $1 million result that we had last week, but the trial before that, it was a good result. We beat a PFS, all of that. So we were happy, but somebody from the jury reached out to talk about the case with us. And one of the things she said is one of our witnesses said a couple times when he was on the stand that, as I stated in my deposition, or as I stated before, and it made him seem a little condescending and arrogant. And so the jury did not really like that witness as much as some of the other witnesses. Do you agree or disagree with that as potential jurors when she said, and not just because it's Amber Heard, because I know a lot of you have feelings, for or against Amber Heard, but just if a witness says, as I stated before, do you feel like the witness is more annoying, or do you feel like the lawyer is more annoying asking questions that keeps eliciting the same answers? Then I'm going to answer Kat's question here. Are there any repercussions for her lawyer objecting correctly and coaching her, or is this another like perjury where nothing will happen? So what can happen is her lawyer, so they can force her to come back and actually answer the questions that he tells her not to answer. They can basically complain to the judge that he did this, and if they think it affected the deposition, they could potentially have the judge try to give them another deposition, and they would have to pay for it. They would potentially have to pay attorney's fees and costs and be sanctioned it would have to rise to a pretty high level, just improper objections. And I don't think anything he was doing in this would necessarily get him sanctioned. But if I felt like he made it so that the deposition was not able to be taken properly, then I would play this for the judge and ask them to make them pay for a redo of the deposition. Ashley, Peter, how is her lawyer allowed to get away with this, coaching and improper objections? I mean, why isn't someone there running interference? So there's no judge during the deposition that's going to make these kinds of calls. So the lawyers are supposed to be cordial, and they're supposed to be appropriate, and they're supposed to be it's a profession of ethics. That's something lawyers always say. We're supposed to be ethical. It's like golf, you know, we're supposed to self-police ourselves in these depositions. And if one lawyer doesn't do that, it can become very difficult to have a smooth deposition where we just get our questions answered and everybody knows it's part of discovery. So that's what we're trying to do. Why isn't the direct questioning technique being utilized? Interrogatories are the best way to identify deception. The direct questioning technique being utilized. I don't know what you mean by direct questioning. Do you mean leading questions? Because you can't ask leading questions when you are the lawyer taking the deposition, and we heard this in some of the video deposition trial. When you're the lawyer actually taking the deposition and it's an opposing party or an opposing witness, you are not allowed to ask leading questions. You have to ask these open-ended questions. It's actually better because you get more information through this discovery process. This is not a trial. You're supposed to ask broader questions and you get broader information, and that's what's better about it. So you ask those in leading questions. You don't say, that was your poo, right? You said this to Johnny, right? You say, what'd you say to Johnny? Because maybe she'll give you more to deal with and maybe it'll be contradicted. But if she's just saying yes to your questions, it's not as good for impeachment either if you are trying to impeach her with things that would not necessarily be consistent. All right, let's get back to it.
Was Kevin Murphy the first other person you spoke to after this conversation turned to feces?
Vague and ambiguous.
Other than Johnny Depp?
Was he the first person I spoke to after speaking to Johnny about this?
Yes.
Feces. I believe he was the first call.
And did you call him or did Johnny call him?
I can't remember.
Okay.
I can't remember.
Did you use your phone?
I can't
to call
remember.
him? Did you ever look for any indication that you had used your phone on your phone?
No.
Okay. And is it true that you claim in your declaration that it was at this time that you began to have concerns for your safety and sent a text to your friend Raquel, who was at the condominium next door?
Vague and ambiguous.
Form,
Yes.
buddy.
I started, that's when the conversation started to become, when he started to show signs of rage and mania, and I started to recognize the emergence of a problem. And Raquel had been worried about me. Before I walked in there, I saw her and Elizabeth and Josh, and they said, please keep us updated. They were very worried for my safety, knowing how physical and dangerous things
Miss
could become.
Heard, excuse me, I'm going to have to object as non-responsive and move to strike. Ms. Heard, I'm going to ask you.
Excuse me.
No, I'm sorry,
No,
Mr. Harder.
no.
We have a very limited time, and I've indulged you, but
No,
you
I'm
have
sorry.
repeatedly.
One at a time, though.
Sure, you've repeatedly obstructed these proceedings.
That's not true.
With inappropriate and improper speaking objections.
Not true.
And objections that are not
Absolutely true. I love that she did this. It is very annoying for a court reporter too who's trying to type this stuff down, but this is a great exchange. This is a great exchange. Great job by Blair. She has said this, so now let's see what he says, but this is something you could potentially show to a judge. Bobby Cat, I'm going to answer your question about Judge Penny watching this, but in a minute.
appropriate for deposition
Not
proceedings.
true. Not true.
And I would like to proceed and not be obstructed, so I'm going to continue asking
You
questions.
keep giving your speeches,
Ms.
and
Heard?
I'm going to give one
Ms.
sentence, which is,
At the time that,
she was interrupted in her answer, and your motion to strike is improper. Go
have you
ahead.
completed your answer?
Well, she doesn't remember what it is now,
That's
with all that
true.
arguing that you had to do.
Do you believe you were interrupted with your answer?
I do.
Okay, I'm going to ask you one more time, okay? When you claimed that you began to have concerns for your safety? Was Kevin Murphy still on the phone?
Vague.
No.
So you didn't have any concerns for your safety when you were talking to Kevin Murphy, correct?
Argumentative and vague.
I don't know. I don't know.
Isn't it true when you were on the phone with you and Johnny, with you and Kevin Murphy and Johnny, that you told Kevin that it was a harmless prank?
Asked and answered.
Absolutely not.
Okay. Isn't it true that you, in fact, during that conversation with Kevin Murphy, with Johnny there, screamed in a raised voice at Kevin Murphy that he was a liar?
That's absolutely not true.
You never called Kevin Murphy a liar during that conversation.
Absolutely not true. I texted Kevin after and I said, do you realize how complicated that answer you gave and how unclear it was? Why would you convey an untruth like that? Why would you say that? What have I ever done to you to make you say this? Is there something?
So you didn't call Kevin Murphy a liar, but you said, why did you convey an untruth? You guys correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't that sound like you're calling somebody a liar if you say I conveyed an untruth, if they conveyed an untruth? Bobby Cat asked, did Judge Penny watch all this? It would be something a judge would do. So Judge Penny was not the judge in this case. This is during their family law case. So no, Judge Penny would not watch this whole thing unless she needed to, if one side wanted to put the whole depo in. Okay, Candy said she meant starting questions with who, what, when, where, why. How, yes, I'm trained to avoid leading questions as prior military intelligence specialist. So yes, you can ask who, what, when, where, why, and a lot of them are. But sometimes when you want to get into specifics like this, you can't. And if you have questions like this, where didn't you specifically say this to this person on the phone? Or what did you call this person on the phone? Things like that, because you have specific information you want her to answer that you can impeach later. Right? And you want to get some specifics. It's not all discovery that you don't know. Sometimes you know pieces and bits of what you're asking about, and you're going to get context from her, or you're going to get even more from her, and you want it to really be expanded. This is not a bad practice, what you're saying. It's absolutely part of the deposition questioning, but it's a mix of more than just these questions. But absolutely, these are the questions you want to focus on: the who, what, when, where, and why in discovery depositions. Great point, Candy. John, could the judge see the depo, make her redo her questioning in an actual courtroom without her counsel acting inappropriately? So this is a good question. And I would say this has happened in cases. And it is very rare, but sometimes judges actually sit at depositions, or they'll have them in a courtroom where the judge will make these calls. Judges absolutely hate to do that. And that is the exception, not the rule. So the judge is more likely to reprimand and sanction a lawyer for acting the way that this lawyer is acting, rather than make them, like children, sit in front of her in a courtroom and finish this deposition.
Thing I'm missing here.
Okay.
That was a text message,
Okay.
and I never accused.
Did you
She didn't ask about a text.
Sorry.
Did you save that text?
I did not erase it.
Of course not.
You did not erase it?
I did not erase
Okay. When did you send that text?
it. Right after the conversation.
Okay. And you still have that text?
I'm sure I do.
Okay. Could you do us a favor and provide that text?
Sure.
Okay. And have you ever tried to locate that text before today?
No.
Did you ever believe that you were supposed to locate any texts between you and Kevin Murphy
No, I
relating to this, what you described about your communication with him?
No.
Okay. You then continue on your declaration and claim that as Johnny continued to rant in an aggressive manner, he then demanded we call Io Tillett.
I was like, what happened?
All right, little natural break in that.
Oh man, the comments had me dying.
I was like just scrolling through them. Go to the West Hollywood home, looking for Johnny, looking for Hilda, looking for whoever she had to kill for getting her in trouble with the poo. We have Samantha McMillan, who is a stylist and worked with Johnny for years and worked with Amber during the relationship with Johnny. And we have on May 24th, Amber going again, fearing for her safety, going to Johnny's West Hollywood home where she says he would run away to. You can hear her mocking him on some of the audios about running away to those homes. Brew.
Brutus is saying, "What's up?"
International Doggy Day.
Making himself heard.
So we have 5 months later on May 24th. She talks about seeing Amber, no makeup, no injuries or anything like that. And this is just 3 days after the phone throwing incident. But the part I want to get to right here at the bottom is after hugging me, she began to yell at Mr. Depp's housekeeper, Hilda Vargas, because Hilda Vargas was the one who saw the poo and called Kevin.
Yeah.
And knew that it was far too large to belong to her dog, which weighed roughly 5 pounds. And if you missed the previous episode, we have Amber saying that her dog was basically a 50-pound dog by that stretch. Then if we come over here to Starling Jenkins, you heard Starling mention. Starling actually drove Amber and friends and luggage to Coachella the following day, and try not to miss any super chat starrings over here. The following day, and he was told this. I'll add this to the stream really quick, and then we'll jump right back. So this was what he had to say while he was driving Amber, an actual personal conversation he had with her about the poop.
And did you have any discussions with Miss Heard on the way to Coachella that evening?
We had a conversation pertaining to the surprise she left in the boss's bed prior to leaving the apartment.
And when you refer to the surprise in the boss's bed, what are you referring to?
The defecation.
And what did Miss Heard say about the defecation in Mr. Depp's bed?
A horrible practical joke gone wrong.
It's not great for her.
A horrible practical joke gone wrong. Just to wind this back. When
Starling
he says,
is such a G. I love him.
When he says defecation, look.
Yeah, look at her face.
Look right there. Smiling just like she smiles in the in the thing in the depot.
Yeah.
So if we go to Starling's testimony here, in written testimony declaration. So on or around May 12th is when Amber, if you recall in a previous episode, Amber got the text from Johnny, and she actually finally got to talk to him. And this is when she slipped up, and she was sent the picture of the poo that Kevin had taken, or that Hilda had taken and given to Kevin, and Kevin gave to Sean, and whatever. And she told on herself, and she slipped up in the depot and onto that text. So she was reaching out to Starling on that day. She was also reaching out to Kevin Murphy on that day. Yep. May 12th, 2016, I received a text and then a telephone call from Amber. Now, this is, again, the same day. She is just making the rounds. She's heard from Johnny. She's reaching out to Starling. Anyone that she talked to, she's making the rounds, like trying to convince people it was just a practical joke. It was a harmless prank. Johnny said he was done over this. Like, he was just done. A true and correct copy of the text he attached, asked if she could call me. When he spoke to her on the phone, she sounded very angry. She told me that she needed her privacy and that she and Johnny were having problems, and that my sending the pictures from Hilda was not helping with those problems. She also told me that leaving the feces in Johnny's bed had been just a harmless prank. In addition, she told me she was thinking about changing the locks, blah, 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 blah. Yep. But again, saying it was.
Kim said, I fell and hurt my knee, whole knee and ankle bruised and swollen. I laughed when my doctor recommended a Mica cream and was devastated when it didn't clear up the bruising and swelling overnight. That's a good one, Kim.
It's just a harmless prank. And again, this goes against the grain of what Amber says, that on that night she decided she was done. Now, this was Johnny being done, and this is very much her trying to salvage the marriage and just calling it a practical joke before she eventually figured maybe just blame it on the dog. Effing liar over and over. I asked her to stop yelling and swearing at me. I also heard Johnny in the background quietly say, please don't speak to him that way. Be respectful. Then I heard Johnny say he couldn't do this anymore and wanted a divorce. And when Amber would not stop screaming, I hung up the phone, and he received multiple additional telephone calls from the same number in the minutes that followed, but refused to answer and take any further abuse. He also received a string of text messages. Jackson, but it's fine. You do you.
So I'll just put this up here real quick because Light Giver said, Brian, Incredibly Average, and Jax, Monsters, Myths, and Movies have all the texts from that day where she attacks Kevin. Check out MMNM in July for the breakdown. Right. What's interesting about it though is, as a lawyer, what's kind of cool about this process, and you can see how a lawyer's brain works. I don't know if I missed any comments here. I was watching the video. If I missed any super chats, I'll try to go back up and find them. But what's interesting is you guys get to watch how a lawyer's mind works, because what we want to do is we want to read all the text messages, do all the research, read all the documents, put it to the side, right? Create our outline for a deposition, and then ask these questions about these text messages, about these phone calls. Even sometimes when we have witnesses that are going to be on our side, either before they're ever deposed or they may never get deposed, and we have answers from them, we have affidavits, whatever we need, statements that we know that Amber Heard or some witness is going to contradict or give the wrong answer to. We sometimes want to be just vague enough and just specific enough to prove that she's giving an inconsistent answer. And then knowing that we have those text messages, we have that statement, we have that deposition, we have pictures that are absolutely going to impeach her. So we're watching Blair, Johnny's lawyer, set up these questions and ask them in the sort of way that she very obviously has the answers or something that is going to prove what Amber Heard says is wrong. And Amber Heard says it in such a confidently smug way. Like, there's no way. I was asking him how he could, I didn't call him a liar. I asked him how he could tell this untruth and spread this and create such a problem. That's really what she's doing. So that's very interesting to me. I see some people posting in the comments they're happy to have caught this live. If you haven't subscribed to the page, hit that subscribe button. I am a lawyer in the Tampa Bay area. I practice civil litigation. I handle injury cases, and I do depositions like this all the time. So I'm just giving a legal angle. Jackson, Brian do a great job providing extra context and giving their angle. They know so much more about the specifics of this case than I will ever know. But I like just focusing on the lawyers and the witnesses and how they're all acting and how different evidence can come across in a deposition and why lawyers ask certain questions and how they use certain documents and evidence during a deposition. So thank you, Light Giver, for that added context. Lisa said, as she is clearly perjuring herself in 3 countries, what's the point of her giving evidence on oath if there are no consequences? 3 countries' responses are reinforcing her unlawful behavior. Why? So first off, I'll say, seems like Australia might be doing something about that, number one. Number two, in America, all of her, perjuring herself or inconsistent statements did come back to bite her, and she did get hit with an 8-figure verdict against her. So I wouldn't say there's no repercussions coming. I wouldn't say she's just getting away with it scot-free. I think this jury found her to not be truthful and to give inconsistent statements, and that is why she is getting hit for some of these inconsistent statements, and she did with that verdict in Virginia. So very, very interesting. Let's get back to it.
But here we go.
Onward.
Do you know who that is?
Yes.
Is that true?
Yes.
And he wanted to do that to prove that you had left feces in his bed, correct?
Vague and ambiguous. Calls for speculation.
You wanted to call Io Tillett to prove, he wanted you to call Io Tillett to prove that you had left, in fact, feces in his bed.
Vague and ambiguous, argumentative. You keep asking the same thing over and over about feces, and it's been answered like 20 times now.
Are you going to answer my question?
Be sure you understand what the question is.
The question, you are asking me if the call to Io was intended to clarify or to talk about the dog shit and the dog feces in the bed.
Okay.
Right?
Did you
Just wait for the next question.
say in your declaration that as Johnny continued to rant in an aggressive and incoherent manner, he then demanded we call our friend Io Tillett Wright to prove his paranoid and irrational accusations about some delusional idea he was having?
Document speaks for itself.
Did you say that in your declaration?
It's in my declaration. Yes.
Is it the truth?
Yes.
Okay. So you did call Io Tillett to discuss the claim that you had left feces in Johnny's bed, correct?
The way you just worded that is to insinuate that we were calling to prove that we had left.
Well, the declaration says that, which is why I
No,
said
it
that.
says about some delusional idea. It does not say.
Is it your testimony here today? Please let the record reflect that the witness is smiling. That
She's not.
I'm not
What are you
smiling.
talking
is
about?
it your testimony here today that when Johnny demanded you call I.O. Tillett right on the evening where you were sitting with him and May 21, 2016, that he was asking you to call I.O. Tillett for some other reason than to discuss the feces left in the bed?
Vague and unintelligible.
Do you understand?
At the time, Johnny was convinced that it was Io that had left human feces in the bed. And he was sure that Io was there at the house that morning because he thought she was there the day before at my birthday party, neither of which are true. He had a delusion that she was there, and she was never there. She was never there that morning. She was not there the night before my birthday party. So to clarify, we called her. She was in fact in New York.
About the feces?
Sorry, guys. Sorry. I did mute myself. Sorry. Thank you. I realized I was muted. So let me start this way. So, yes, I understand. I know the chat is going to go crazy now that I was muted. Hello. Yes, it's here. It's unmuted now. So we keep it as real as we possibly can. I'm starting over again. Thank you, Light Giver. Here we go. One more time. Let's try this again with sound. Number one. We keep it 100 on the channel. We keep it fair and we keep it straightforward. Yes, I'm re-saying everything that I said while I was muted. And that is the way Amber Heard should answer the question. Give it context, saying you insinuated with your question that we meant this or that we did this. We didn't. You insinuated by the way you asked the question that we did this. That's exactly how she should answer the question. And if the lawyer would just let her answer the question like that, I think it would be going a lot better than it is, than him continuing to pipe in with all of this. I'm trying to remember. So I put the vague and ambiguous stuff up there. Yeah, see guys, this is why I can't do this on my own. But I think you guys may have missed the vague and ambiguous stuff. So the questions were, why does he keep objecting to vague when the questions are very straightforward? Why does he keep objecting to vague when this seems like I can understand the question? It's very direct, it's very specific. The answer is objection form is an appropriate objection to a vague question. And sometimes, and when I was a very, very young baby lawyer, sometimes it was hard for me to pick up on, like, why are they saying this is vague? But if you use certain words, those words can be vague. Like anything like that is kind of vague. Were you upset about that? Well, it could be vague. What do you mean by upset? There are tons of them. If I hear him do it again, vague, I'll try to stop it and explain how the question may actually have a word in it that is vague. Off the top of my head, I'm just kind of blanking, but it happens all the time when you use certain words like, was it a lot? Vague. What does a lot mean? and what is it? Did he say something? Did anybody say anything to you? Did he say something to you? Well, who is he? Sometimes that can be vague. So that's why a lot of times you'll hear lawyers say, did Johnny say this to you, Amber? So that it's not using just pronouns or things like that, where it actually could be vague if you think about it, even though with context, we all know what it means because we know what this case is about. I had a case where somebody got hurt on a specific machine. And in interrogatory questions, I said, what machine was it? When did you maintain the machine? When did the machine break? And they're like, well, I'm objecting to all of your interrogatories because I don't know what you mean by the machine. So then we had to refer to the machine with its official name and serial number and brand so that it was not vague. Even though we're all only talking about one machine in this gym, it was technically a proper objection because the machine, I guess, could be vague when you have more machines in this gym, even though all of you who are very intelligent and can understand who she's talking about, what she's talking about, we want to be specific and lawyers have to be specific. I'll try to the next vague objection that comes up because we don't have to worry about him being vague in his objection and actually saying form like he's supposed to. When he says vague, I'll try to pause it and figure out what is vague about the question. Sue said, Peter, you make me laugh when you say, tell me in the chat if you disagree. LOL, you are a practicing lawyer and teaching us about the law. You are the best. Thank you. Sue, thank you. I appreciate the compliment, but I will say, I'm not saying that in a facetious way and I'm not blowing smoke. I legitimately want your opinion because when I ask you that, it's about fact questions. And you all are much more likely to be potential jurors on trials than I am, and you could be a potential juror on my trial. So I want to know how you break down certain facts and what you think about certain facts and presentations of witnesses and how lawyers act. So I really want to know, I really value your opinion on those things. Storm said she's a very bad liar / actor. I thought there was something else here I was going to do. Yeah, words have meaning and words have powers. We always say that words are important and definitions are important. That's something we always say on this channel. All right, let's get back to it. I need to focus on the vague so I could try to explain that better.
Yes, so I thought.
I'll move on. Ms. Heard, you said in your declaration that when you began having concerns for your safety, you said that he began to break things in the apartment.
Yes.
Is that true?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Yes. You say in your declaration that after you demanded you called IO, he started to grab things and break things in the apartment. Is that true?
Which line?
Okay, we can go line by line if you like.
It's easier.
Did you call IO till it right at that time?
Yes, we called someone else first. We called Savannah first because he also thought she was there.
Did you speak to Savannah?
No.
Okay. Does
this sound like a teenage relationship to anybody else? Like you got to call your friends to like settle a fight for you or see who was right? I mean, it seems kind of weird. No, she's not getting paid for the demo.
Did you place the call to IO or did Johnny?
I can't remember.
Okay. And prior,
I'm sorry. I believe it was me placing the call. I believe it was me placing the call.
Okay. Prior to you placing that call to IO till it right, had Johnny broken anything in the living area where you were in Penthouse 3?
Vegas time.
On May 21, 2016 to that moment?
Vague.
Can you answer the question?
Are you asking me if he broke anything on that date?
Where you were in that room?
At what point?
Anytime since he arrived that night?
Vegas to time.
Up until.
So you get it now, right? Did he come to your room? Was there a time he came to your room? Vague as to time. That's it in a nutshell. Like we get the question, it all makes sense, but technically if you want to be like this about it, you could say after Johnny left the night of August 5th, did he come back? Like you got to be as specific as you possibly can.
What? I'm sorry. Can you?
Ms.
Repeat the
Heard,
question.
when you were calling IO right,
Mhm.
do you claim that Johnny had broken a single thing in or around your apartment that you were aware of?
Before calling IO?
Correct.
I don't know. I don't think so.
Was there any wine spilled anywhere that you were aware of prior to calling IO right?
Not that I'm aware of.
Was there any
But he did walk in holding a Magnum bottle, and it was opened. So I don't know if something spilled.
Was there any broken glass of any kind prior to calling IO right?
Calls for speculation.
Sue, I did not take it wrong at all. I took it as you were being complimentary to me, which I appreciated. But I did want to make sure that you know and everybody else knows I am being serious when I want to know what you all think about this. And I don't want you to just, echo chamber me or say something that, you think I want to hear, because that doesn't help me. And I feel the same with you. I don't just try to say things you guys want to hear because I don't think that's helpful. But, I appreciate the comment for sure. Melissa Lee with an interesting question. Would we be able to be a juror on your jury, or would we be excluded since we watch your channel? That's an interesting question. And for the first time ever, I wondered that my last trial 2 weeks ago. Is it possible that anybody in here actually did watch the YouTube channel? And it turns out about halfway through the trial, one of the defense lawyers told me that they watched a few of my videos before trial, which was kind of funny. Because the defense lawyers do research, or the lawyers do research on each other. So a lot of defense lawyers can go out there and see this, which is perfectly fine with me. But here's the answer, Melissa. Technically, yes, you could be a juror. The defense could try to strike you if they want, but the judge would ask you, even though you watch Peter's YouTube channel, would you be able to listen to the evidence in this case and be fair and impartial and weigh that evidence and not make your decision based on whether you like or dislike Peter on YouTube? Because let's be honest, a lot of people hate watch or, leave nasty comments or say whatever stuff. So it could be somebody that hates me that watches the channel. And then if you could answer that question yes to the judge, which I would hope you would after watching the channel, be able to be fair and impartial. And like I said, not just do what I say, but do what you think is right. And I think every single one of you would be like that. So that would be the real question is, would it affect your ability to be fair and impartial? And if the answer to that is no, then technically you could sit as a juror on one of my juries, which would be hilarious and awesome one day. Cassandra Jaskula, can you please wish our son, Micah Warren, well as he leaves for the Marine Corps boot camp tomorrow? We welcome all prayers, good vibes, and loving thoughts. My prayers will be with you, Cassandra, and Micah Warren. Thank you for your service. Marines are the biggest BAs that I know. My buddies that are Marines are the guys that are the toughest guys I know. So good luck to you, and keep us posted, Cassandra, on how he's doing.
To your knowledge, that you saw.
I can't remember.
During the call with IO Wright, please tell us exactly what happened.
She picked up the phone and I said, hey, babe, just for clarity, I'm here with Johnny. He's upset about some things. Can you just clarify it and we can put some things to bed? She said, what? And I said, were you over here on the morning of my birthday? And she said, why are you asking me that? And of course I wasn't. I met you in Palm Springs. And I said, I'm here with Johnny and he's upset about something and I just want to put it to bed. And she said, no, I don't know if she got much more out because he started screaming, grabbed the phone out of my hand. She was on speakerphone and he started yelling at her.
Were you holding the phone prior to the phone that you were speaking to IO Tillett on?
Yeah.
Okay. And you claim that he then grabbed the phone from you?
He grabbed the phone from me. And then before he went upstairs, presumably to pack a bag or get some of his things, as he indicated to me, he, tossed it tossed it in my direction or something on the table, on the couch. I can't remember which. Picked it up and I said, oh my God, IO. I can't remember if the call disconnected and it was two separate calls or if it was one call, but I remember saying to Io, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I did not call you to get screamed at," because she answered the phone, the poor thing, without any real expectation, just started being screamed at by Johnny in this way. And I didn't want to make it seem like I called her for a setup to just be yelled at. And he was saying, you know, "You dyke bitch, you know, your 10-cent words and your fucking book deal and your fucking sell out my family, you know, just the worst things that you can, expletives and very personal things to her situation." And he started to go upstairs, and I had the phone in my hand again, and I'm on speakerphone, and he said, he makes it upstairs, makes it partway up the stairs, and she says, it does not sound safe. Get out before it gets worse this time. Get out of there. Get out. It's not safe." And all of my friends who are informed of our history are very, 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 very scared of me being alone in a room with him when there are things wrong, or when we're fighting, when we're working things out, and when he's using. So she was very clear and on speakerphone saying, "Get out of the house. It's not safe. It doesn't sound safe. Get out." And he heard it, and it was it was like a he turned around, bolted back down the stairs, grabbed the phone, and started screaming at her, even louder this time and even worse this time, and really lit into her. And I'm sitting on the couch. I haven't even gotten up off the couch. My legs were cross-legged. And he says, "You want her so much, you dyke bitch. You want to be her man now. You want to be a man to her now. You can fucking have her." And he winds up his hand. He winds his arm back, and he throws the phone at me, and it hits me, bam, right in what felt like the eye, and it just felt like this pop, or what I thought was a pop, and it just felt. I put my head in my hands, and when I had my head covered, I didn't know what he was doing or where it was going, but I had my head down, and I was saying, I think I was crying, and I said, "You've hit me." And I could hear him yelling and knocking things over, and I wanted him to know that that he had hurt me, because sometimes you wouldn't remember these incidences. And so I remember I said, "Johnny, it hit me in the eye, and I don't know if it felt like it just felt like my eye, or it could have been my eye, and I didn't know, you know."
Okay, before we get to the injuries, let me just ask you about what you say happened with Miss Tillett Wright.
Sure.
Was she on the phone during all of this?
Yes, but at the time I wasn't sure, because the phone, after it impacted my face, fell on the ground.
Okay. Isn't it true that, Ms. Heard, you yelled to Tillett Wright to call 911?
I don't remember yelling that. I'm sure. I'm sure I yelled, "Help, help." I don't know. It was traumatic.
Isn't it the truth, Ms. Heard, that you swore in your declaration at line 11, page 3, that I then yelled out, quote, "Call 911," end quote?
Yeah. Then I said that. This was taken immediately after, and it's been a while.
Okay, so you did yell for Tillett Wright to call 911, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, but didn't you testify earlier?
She just said, "I don't remember, maybe I did." And then it's like, "Well, you did." And then she says she did. Mo, so her friend is telling her it isn't safe, so she continues to sit crisscross applesauce on the couch. Sounds relaxed to me. A lot of this stuff, Mo, as you're pointing out, it doesn't line up and it doesn't make sense. That's what I'm saying. People don't just call. I mean, you shouldn't. just call somebody a liar because you want to call them a liar because you don't believe them or anything like that. But I think we're allowed to use our common sense and listen to comments and listen to context and listen to other testimony to see if we believe something somebody is saying. And that's what we do in life. That's what we do in relationships. That's what we do with everything. RMP Nella, do you delete those comments? No, I don't delete comments. Most of the nasty comments are not during the lives. They're like people that watch later and come in and just like to drop little bombs and stuff. But no, I leave them up. I don't really care. Unless they're talking about somebody else, then sometimes I'll delete them. If they're like too nasty about, Amber or Johnny, I'll try to, I don't see every single one, but if they're making fun of me, usually I just leave them and laugh.
That you had kept these abuse allegations secret?
Not from everybody.
Okay.
There was like I said earlier to you, my select group was starting to become more and more informed of it as time went on. So at the very beginning, I would only tell my mom, somebody who understands this sort of situation.
So your mom, you told her that you've been physically abused by Johnny Depp?
Yeah, I would tell her from the almost at the very beginning. I confided in her. That's why I have pictures. Yeah.
Okay. So from the very beginning to this incident, May 21, you had confided in your mom?
Yeah, I think I probably hit the first few incidences, but very, very soon into it, I started to tell.
Okay. And you confided in other people, including your friends, correct?
Therapists until it became problematic.
Okay. When you confided in your therapist, when did you confide in your therapist that you've been a victim of domestic violence?
I'm just going to object on grounds of the therapist privilege.
She's just told us what she told her therapist. Therefore, under the law, she's waived any claim as to privilege for me asking her about what she told her
Well,
therapist.
that may have been inadvertent. I'm asserting it right now. If I didn't catch it the first time, it was probably quick, and I apologize.
Miss Heard.
So what's interesting about that is, so now they're objecting, saying she can't talk about those therapist notes, but that's the entirety of the mountain of medical evidence that they want their appeal to be on, and that they argued was inappropriately suppressed at the trial court level in Virginia. Yet here they're very clearly asserting a privilege, saying you can't even ask her about it. Very interesting to think about.
When did you have this conversation with your therapist about these events? We don't have to get into the specifics of what you told her or him. When did you have the conversation with your therapist last?
So as per usual, ickle miss. Yes, it's technically a legal objection. He just said it wrong. It's objection, privileged. I'm instructing the witness not to answer. That's it. You don't have to get into this whole, explanation.
About these events.
Privileged, don't answer.
I'm asking you for the date or the month.
I don't mind if you ask on what day and month you had a therapist and spoke to a therapist, but when you add in these events, now you're getting into the privilege. So you just need to narrow it down a little bit.
When was the last time prior to May 21 you'd spoken to a therapist?
I don't remember exactly.
Did you have a regular therapist?
We had a couples counselor, or a couples counselor. And I saw someone for about a year by myself as an individual. And then we attempted to have a couples therapist prior to that, but it didn't stick. And then I saw someone on my own at the beginning of Johnny and I's relationship.
Okay. At the point that you were on the phone still with Io Tillett-Wright, was Raquel Pennington ever in Penthouse 5 with you while Io was still on the phone?
I cannot be certain when Io hung up the phone because I was not speaking to Io after the phone was taken from me.
You cannot be certain?
I cannot be certain.
Do you want to read back the answer? Because you were talking to your colleague
Do
and
you
she gave an
remember,
answer.
Ms. Heard, whether Raquel Pennington was in the apartment with you in Penthouse 5 at any time while you were still on the phone with Io Till It Right?
I was no longer on the phone with Io Till It Right from the moment he revoked the phone from my hand and threw it at my face.
Okay.
Revoked the phone from my hand? I've never heard somebody say that. I've heard people say, I listen to a lot of words and a lot of different kind of people speaking. I've never heard somebody say revoked the phone from my hand. Alyssa, can a lawyer withdraw a waiver after their client just shared privileged medical conversations? They can withdraw a waiver. Withdraw a waiver. Sorry, I thought you were going to say, can they waive a privilege? You can waive a privilege. You can withdraw an inadvertent waiver, especially in a deposition. You can say, no, she's not going to answer any questions. And if it's a really big fight, the judge can make a decision as to whether or not it was a legitimate waiver, and they can dig into it even more. So yes, you can withdraw a waiver technically, especially when it was not a purposeful waiver. But you can't use those documents later that she wasn't able to be questioned on at her deposition. So that's the point, is you can't have it both ways. You can't use it as the sword and the shield.
And from the moment you say in your testimony that Johnny went upstairs,
Started to go upstairs,
and then came back downstairs,
Mm-hmm.
the next incident that happened was his physical incident that happened was his throwing a phone, you claim.
Yeah.
Okay. Where do you claim he was when he threw this phone?
By the stairs, by the bottom of the stairs.
And you were on the couch still?
Yes.
Okay. You were sitting on the couch?
I was sitting cross-legged on the couch.
And the distance between the bottom of the stairs and the couch is what?
Probably, if I had to measure it in steps, 5 paces from, if I am here, maybe it's easier to do it this way because that's how the room is laid out. I'd say it was from here to the corner of the wall over your right shoulder.
And when you say he threw the phone, was
Maybe
he facing you or facing away from
He
you?
was facing me.
And your testimony is today that he threw the phone at you, correct?
Asked and answered.
Yes?
Yeah.
Prior to his throwing the phone at you, was there any other incident of violence that occurred?
Objection, vague and ambiguous.
Had Johnny Depp touched you in any way prior to his throwing the phone?
Wait, vague is, you
On
mean
May
on that
21,
day? Okay.
2016. Was that the first?
He just grabbed the phone out of my hand for the first time, but
Okay.
it didn't hurt me.
Okay.
But this time he
And was there
revoked
any
it.
other act of violence against you prior to when he went upstairs, came back downstairs, and threw the phone?
I don't know if you'd count screaming at me,
Okay.
But no.
Other than
Physical.
Okay. Other than screaming, had he broken anything in the apartment yet on the floor?
I'm not sure.
You're not sure?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Had he thrown any bottles prior to you're saying he threw this phone?
I'm not sure. I can't remember now.
So it's like some details she has perfectly, and the other details she does not. I want to pause it here for a second. We've got a few minutes left of that, but I see people in the chat saying Bobby is so generous. Thank you so much, Bobby Cat. I can't tell from here, but based on some other context, Cassandra said, how do we gift memberships? Do we have to be on a computer? I have no idea how to gift memberships. I didn't know that was a thing until about a week or two ago. And then Bobby said, this is my favorite channel. Love to support it and appreciate Peter doing this. It really helps to understand this all. So I'm going to put some context clues together like we teach our kids when they're learning how to read, that Bobby Cat is gifting some memberships to the channel, which is amazing and so nice and fun. That is awesome. I appreciate it, Bobby Cat. That's really fun. And you guys can get into some of the fun members only chats and polls that we post on the community page. So I appreciate that a lot, Bobby Cat, and anybody else gifting memberships. I can't tell I'm on StreamYard. So I see the comments, so I can't tell her. I would have said something earlier. I appreciate it. That's awesome.
I'm not sure what he did prior to throwing the phone at me.
Okay. Was there any broken glass on the floor where you were prior to his throwing the phone at you?
Was there any broken glass on the floor around?
Anywhere on the floor of the room you both were in prior to when he threw the phone at you that you were aware of?
At this moment, I don't remember there being any.
Okay, okay. And after you say he threw the phone at you, what happened next?
All I remember is him screaming these expletives at my friend Io and telling her that she could have me now, and then he threw his arm back and he threw the phone, what appeared to be very as hard as he could at my face. Put my head down. I said, "You hit me." I was crying. I said, "Johnny, you hit me," because then I start hearing things being smashed, and I said to him, "Honey, you hit me in the eye, my eye," and I start crying, and he approaches me, and I don't know if I, in here feeling him approach, anticipate to try to get up, or if I help him help me up, or if he just did it all by grabbing my hair. But for some reason, I had some aid in getting up off the couch by him grabbing my head, mostly on my right side, the impact of which was significant in and of itself. He grabs my grabs my head, takes a fistful of my hair and says, I hit your eye, huh? Let me see your eye. Let me see your eye. What if I pull your hair back?" And he yanks my head back, and he's, I don't know, smacking my face or moving my face, and he's got me by the hair, and
So these are a lot of details now. Before, she didn't remember things that should have been very easily remembered. And then when she says stuff like slapping my face or moving my face, to me, two very different things, especially when we're talking about abuse, especially when we're talking about a family law case or domestic violence. I think moving your face and slapping your face could be different. It's just tough, I think. And watching this back now, knowing what we know and listening to all the other times she's testified or giving versions of the story, to me is a little harder to watch personally. Because, I want to be sensitive to domestic violence victims, and I don't want to scoff at them or say I don't believe them or things like that. You have to be careful in how you break this stuff down and think about this stuff. But again, common sense, logic, context, other people's statements and other evidence, I think, is important to consider when listening to this.
It's hard to describe. It's like yanking me from side to side with my hair.
Are you standing up at this time?
Yeah.
Okay. And has he pulled out any hair from your head?
He's still holding on to my head.
Okay.
At this time, and he said, I don't know if he's trying to grab my face or if he's hitting my face, or I don't know what's happening, but he's yelling at me, he's screaming about let's see how hard I hit you, and I'm screaming at the top of my lungs.
Okay.
Help, please help. I guess I say call 911. I'm screaming for help, not just in case Io is on the phone, which I don't know because the phone is somewhere after hitting my face. I don't know where it ricocheted and bounced off to, but it's on the floor. I can only hope she's on the line, but I know and guess security is somewhere. And even though they never respond when I'm screaming help, ever, I'm screaming help as loud as I can. I had also text Rocky previous. It's amping up. He's getting crazy again. Please, I need you to come over, because I thought another third party might be, a third party being present helps always.
Is it your testimony?
Calm things.
Is it your testimony, Ms. Heard,
break, please?
No.
She's upset. She's upset. It's
She's
clear
not-
that she's crying and she's upset, Blair. How could you possibly force her to answer
Because
questions
I
when
see
she's
the witness
crying and
is not
upset?
upset and hasn't requested. Do you
I'm
need to take a
requesting on her
break,
behalf.
Ms. Heard?
Yes.
What?
Yes.
Let the record reflect Mr. Harder's answering for Ms. Heard,
I
yes,
answered as
and
well.
Ms. Heard has
She-
responded, yes. We'll take a break and go off record at this time.
This marks the end of media number 3 in the
What?
video deposition of Amber Depp. The time is approximately 5:17 p.m. and we're going off the record.
Is that the end of this part? What? That was really weird. So that's really weird for a bunch of reasons. Number one, he wants to finish this deposition today, yet he's saying they need to take a break. Trust me, I've been in depositions where clients really break down. And actually, at my trial last week, we had to take a break because my client broke down on the stand. And it's real. And sometimes you do have to pause. And like you remember, regardless of what you think about Kyle Rittenhouse, when he started crying on the stand and stuff and like hyperventilating, something, whether you think it's fake or real, whatever, when it's like that, I understand taking a break. She barely was even starting to have a tinge of it in her voice. And he stops everything because Blair wanted to ask another question. Totally unreasonable. If you show this to a judge and you know he's trying to argue to limit her deposition, this right here would be just another example as to they are actually the ones that are delaying this, not Johnny Depp's lawyers. They're just trying to ask. She was literally perfectly fine by the time he got his objection out. She went like this and wiped her forehead. She didn't even wipe any tears from her eyes. Listen, in a case like this, the deposition is going to be tough. There may be some tears. There may be some times that people are upset, but you can't just stop the depo every time you want. That's not reasonable. That's not really how it works at all. Arlene asked, why are these clips being released in pieces like this? That's how Incredibly Average has decided to do it. And Melissa Campbell is a new member. Yeah, that was very strange to me, and that's how it ends. There was a couple really bad parts in here, I think, for Amber Heard, and this was one of them. And her lawyer, it is like they're trying to almost put on a little bit. And we have to remember that this is part of a family law case. And a lot of times through litigation, like I always tell you guys, most cases settle, and even a higher majority of cases settle in family law cases. So a lot of this is done as leverage. A lot of this is done in, oh, you see how hurt she is, or you see how bad this is. And the deposition is sometimes putting on a show. And they're not thinking that people are going to be watching this later or that it's going to come back to bite them in the Virginia trial, which it did. So that's very, very interesting to see that that's how they did this and trying to really play up her getting emotional when it's very, again, it's one of those things where she's saying, look at this picture. And I always said during the trial, I said, putting up a picture of her right hand saying, look, this is my left hand. This is my left hand. It's like, we're not stupid. We've all had emotions before. We've all seen people be emotional. She was not in a state where she had to stop answering questions. This is a deposition about a very difficult subject. She knew it was going to be difficult. You can't just stop the deposition. Not appropriate. I've been in lots of depositions and trials where people do have breakdowns and you have to stop. And even sometimes where they start to break down a little bit, but you continue on. Maria, if she didn't know where the phone was and he had a hold of her hair, how did she text Rocky? I thought the same thing, but I didn't want to get technical and nitpicky about it. It makes zero sense, Maria. I do agree with you. I thought the same thing. It's like, wait a second. So now you were able to text her? That doesn't really make a lot of sense. Thank you, Marcy. So that's another part down. That is part 6, and the FSU game was delayed and I think is about to kick off. So just timing works out perfectly sometimes, you know? It's great how that happens sometimes. It looks like Florida State still hasn't kicked off, but we'll watch it when it does. All right. You guys are the best. Thank you, everybody that joined me to watch this live. The first time we've ever watched Amber Heard's Depo together live. It was very interesting. It was fun talking about it with you guys, like we're sitting on the couch watching it on my TV here together. So that was cool. Bobby, thanks for all the membership gifts you gave out today. If you guys haven't subscribed to the channel, take a second and subscribe. It's free. Half of you that watch this statistically aren't subscribed. So it'd be awesome if you would subscribe and like the video. That would be cool. on your way out. I appreciate all the support. I appreciate all your questions. You guys add so much content to the channel. Couldn't do it without you, literally. So I appreciate everything and everyone that has joined us today. Hope everyone has a great Saturday night or rest of the weekend. You all are the best. And until the next one, I'm out of here. But get at me on Twitter and Instagram too. Let's chat on there. Let's hang out on there as well. You guys are the best. See you later.